I really think you have a better chance of figuring out how many licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop, or how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood, before you figure out how to get a Capital One credit limit increase. But if you have been denied a credit limit increase by Capital One, I have some information that may help you understand why, and some actionable steps on what you can do next. Then I will also share a few other cards that actually could replace some of the Capital One cards in your wallet, and that will definitely give you more frequent credit limit increases than Capital One. When you were denied a credit limit increase, you should have received a letter in the mail. Go and grab that letter if you still have it so you can follow along in the video. If your letter says that you were denied because your Capital One account is too new, this means that before Capital One can give you more credit, you have to have more account history with several months of on-time payments, and you are encouraged to reapply after several months. Now, Capital One never gives a specific number on what several means, but if you look at the definition of several, it means more than two but fewer than many. Let's say you are someone who applied for a Capital One credit card today, and next month you already decided you want a credit limit increase. I would wait at least 6 months before reapplying. If your letter says that you were denied because there has recently been a change to the credit line on this account, that means that you either recently applied for a credit limit increase and were approved, or that means you were given one automatically. And Capital One does state for this example that in general they don't change an account's credit line more often than every 6 months, but there are some instances where that might not be true. So if you are actually finding success in applying for Capital One credit limit increases and you're getting approved, I would say to not apply more than twice per year or every 6 months. However, that is a generalization, so if you are using your Capital One card for all your purchases, I feel like you might be getting approved more frequently than every 6 months, especially if you are paying your card off in full or carrying a balance but making payments that are significantly higher than your monthly minimum. If your letter says you were denied because your account was recently past due, this means that you either recently missed a payment or made a late payment on your account. In general, they state that they will not approve credit limit increases on accounts that are past due, so accounts that have missed a payment or made a late payment within the last 12 months. And it's also really important to note that the longer your account was past due, the longer you have to wait to be eligible for a credit limit increase. In order to be considered in the future, you have to not only maintain a history of paying on time, but paying significantly more than your monthly minimum. And paying more than your monthly minimum, significantly more, is something that Capital One reiterates a lot. And they also say that it won't guarantee an approval, but it will significantly increase your chances. They also recommend signing up for autopay, so maybe if you do that, that will also send a signal to the algorithm to help improve your chances, but that's just my own theory, it's not proven. If you are someone who has found yourself in a situation where your account is past due, it might be really difficult for you to make payments that are significantly larger than your monthly minimum because of the interest that gets added to your account every single month. But at the same time, more credit might be helpful for you because it'll lower your overall credit utilization rates and therefore improve your credit score. And because of that, I think it might be worth your time to play with the idea of doing a balance transfer where you won't have to pay any interest on your current debt for at least 12 months. However, I only think you should play with this idea or even consider it. Don't even let it be a thought in your mind if you're not 100% certain you won't carry a balance again. So whether that means addressing your spending issues or whether that means you need to first increase your income. But if you do not address the issue first, you will just end up with a second credit card, or maybe this is your fourth or fifth one, with another high balance that you cannot pay off. But if you do this right, you can lower your Capital One balance, therefore making it easier for you to pay more than the monthly minimum each month, and then you get to pay off your debt without any added interest for at least a year. If your letter says you were denied because your average monthly payment has been too low, this means that you are carrying a balance but not making large enough payments to qualify for a credit limit increase. Capital One states that both your payment history and the amount of your payments help determine if your account is eligible for an increase. If you make payments on time that are significantly more than your monthly minimum for at least 3 months, you are then encouraged to reapply. And I think the advice I gave previously about the balance transfer also applies to this situation as well. And I think it's also helpful for some people to know that you can still receive a credit limit increase even if you are carrying a balance. You just have to work a little harder for it. If your letter says you were denied because usage of this account's existing credit limit is too low, this one's pretty self-explanatory, but the people who are most often approved for credit limit increases use a substantial amount of their existing credit line. In general, and this is again a good point, is that customers who are approved are using a substantial amount of their credit. So if you are looking for a Capital One credit limit increase, but you're not really spending that much on the card, or you do spend a little on the card, but you're not really using that much of your existing credit, one simple quick fix is to just spend more on the card. Or another option that they do state is that you can carry a balance, just making sure your payments are more than the monthly minimum. If your letter says you were denied because the credit reporting agency has reported a recent credit delinquency, this means that your credit report has shown that you have paid one or more creditors late. In most cases, Capital One will not approve approve requests for credit line increases on accounts that have made late payments in the past 12 months. So if you've been on your best behavior with Capital One, but you've been acting out with American Express, they're still not approving you for more credit. And this applies not only to credit limit increases with Capital One, but also to new credit card applications that you might put through. Now, if your letter says you were denied because your credit score is too low, on the back of that letter, there will be a list of determining factors. In that case, I would spend the next 12 months working to increase your credit score. Capital One states that even if you address all the reasons you weren't approved initially and then you go reapply and everything looks good, it still doesn't guarantee you a credit limit increase. So if you are someone who is carrying a balance, I recommend you making the largest payment you can every single month for at least 6 months. And if you are someone who is not carrying a balance, I think you should use more of your credit, as much as you possibly can. But I'm not encouraging you to go and buy things that you wouldn't normally buy. I just mean that if you're someone who has more than one credit card and you're dividing your spend across multiple different cards, consider it just for a short period of time until you get the credit limit increase using the Capital One card for all your purchases, and then after you get the increase, you can go back to doing whatever you were doing before. Now let's talk about a few cards that can replace the Capital One credit card in your wallet, starting with the Discover It Cashback card. This was the very first credit card that I was approved for when I was 18 years old, and in the beginning, I wasn't really using this card a whole lot because I was taught that credit is bad, you should stay away from it. You're going to be in debt your whole life and it's just not good, but yet you should have a credit card, just don't use it. And during that time, I never received one credit limit increase from Discover. However, I unlearned all of that and I began using my credit card for every single purchase, that one credit card, the Discover It Cashback card. And then after that, I was getting credit limit increases every 3 to 6 months automatically. I have never applied for a Discover credit limit increase. When I applied for the card, my credit line was only $500. It is now $2,700, and that's not a lot because I no longer use that card. I stopped using that card when I was about 20. So I've only used that card for about a year consistently, and in that year, my credit limit went from $500 to $2,700, and I never applied for a single credit limit increase. So if you are okay with having a simple cashback card, Discover, in my experience, is very generous. With a Discover It Cashback card, you will earn 5% cash back at different places each quarter. This is an offer you have to activate, so if you apply for this card, make sure you do that before you start spending. You will earn 1% back on all other purchases. This is 0.5% lower than the Capital One Quicksilver card, but you do get a dollar for dollar match on the cashback you earn at the end of your first year. Another cool thing about this card is, unlike with Capital One, if you apply and are approved, you can enjoy 0% APR for 15 months. With the Capital One Quicksilver card, you can only enjoy 0% APR if you apply and are approved for the Capital One Quicksilver card, meant for people with excellent credit. The next card is the Amex Blue Cash Preferred card. This card does have an annual fee of $95 after your first year, but if you spend a lot on groceries, this card has one of the highest multipliers on grocery purchases that I have seen. There is a cap of $6,000 per year, which averages out to about $500 a month. In this economy, I feel like that's only a fraction of many people's grocery bills. This means you have the potential to earn $360 back on your grocery bill every single year. If you subtract the $95 annual fee, that's still $265 of positive value just from grocery purchases alone. You will also earn 6% on select streaming service subscriptions, 3% on transit, 3% on gas, 1% on all other purchases. This card also gives you 0% APR on purchases and balance transfers for 12 months. The next card is the Wells Fargo Active Cash Card. This is another really simple cash card with no annual fee. I like that this card has a flat, unlimited 2% cash back on all purchases. It's also impressive that for a card with no annual fee, it offers a sign-up bonus. You will earn $200 cash back when you spend $500 in purchases within the first 3 months. You can also enjoy 0% APR for 12 months. I also want to point out that Wells Fargo and American Express's interest rates appear to be much lower than Capital One's interest rates. Wells Fargo has variable interest rates starting at 19.74%, 24.74%, or 29.74%. American Express has a variable of 18.74% to 29.74%. And good old Capital One has an interest rate of 29.99% for all card buckets except for excellent credit. If you apply for a card meant for people with excellent credit, your interest rate will be between 19.99% to 29.99%. A lot of people apply for a Capital One credit card as their very first credit card, and this is the time where you're still learning how to manage money, manage your finances, manage credit. And it's almost kind of predatory how they charge these people interest rates that are significantly higher than everybody else and make it so you kind of stay in, if you do get into debt, you kind of stay in that trap for a very long time. I think the card that is closest to most of the Capital One cashback cards is the Chase Freedom Unlimited card. And this is simply because you will be earning 1.5% cash back on most purchases. This card has no annual fee and no sign-up bonus, but you can enjoy 0% APR for 15 months. 3% on drugstore purchases, 3% on dining at restaurants, and 5% on travel purchased through Chase Travel. And right now, they're doing something I've never seen before and offering an extra 1.5% in each category for your first year of membership. So if you are looking to break up with Capital One, I think now is the perfect time to do it. That is it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.